Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to the Best Darn Diddler Review Show. This is a weekly podcast for anyone who loves The Simpsons or ever has loved The Simpsons, hosted by two dudes that grew up on The Simpsons. My name is Miles, better known as MrMostDaysOff, and today we are getting au natural as we talk about natural-born kissers. And joining me, as always, in the buff, your co-host with the most, it's Richie the Wiz Kid. How you doing today, Rich?
I'm feeling free, my friend. I'm feeling free. This one is, I got questions for the censors on this episode because I remember this one being a little loose, so to speak, but I didn't realize how loose it is at certain times. But that means we got plenty to talk about in this season finale episode of The Simpsons. So I'll throw it back to you. The man, the myth, the dirty girl I married. It's Miles.
Nice. Yeah, dude, there's actually a lot of things to talk about specifically with the censors, which is really fun. Right off the bat, let me say that there was an audio commentary for this episode that featured Matt Groening, Mike Scully, Dan Castellaneta, George Meyer, Mark Kirkland, Matt Selman. Sorry, I didn't realize that wasn't the last name there. This was actually Matt Selman's first episode that he wrote. He was a writer on the show previously, but this was his first script that he was assigned. And another little just bonus fun fact, the chalkboard gag, the couch gag on this one is the frogs. The Simpsons come in as frogs on a lily pad. And that was actually suggested by Matt Selman's daughter.
Aw.
Yeah, I think that's pretty sweet. There was also a chalkboard gag on this one, which was, I was not the inspiration for Kramer, which, I don't really watch Seinfeld enough to know if there's that much similarity.
I couldn't care less about Seinfeld. I guess I shouldn't cut off like half our fan base by suggesting it's a terrible show, but it's just not for me.
It's a terrible show. I just think
it's just not for me.
Yeah, I watched it back in the day, and like I would enjoy it like periodically, but it's a show that like most shows I like watching a lot of at once, like binging essentially. That show I can only watch a couple episodes at a time before it got real repetitive. But that's just me. And props to Jerry Seinfeld in general. I mean, the dude has made a career out of getting paid very well to do very generic comedy. Props, man. That's not even a slide, bro. Like, I'm talking about his stand-up and whatnot. Like, it's like, what's the deal with airline? See, exactly. It's a fucking like joke at this point. But anyway, since we did this whole beginning backwards, I will say that this was Natural Born Kissers, which originally aired on May 17th, 1998. Once again, I just think it's cool that we are actually recording this episode today on May 17th, 2020.
Wow, how time flies.
Right?
And how synchronicity works.
We open up in the master bedroom of the Simpsons home, where Homer is putting on a tie in a mirror, and you can see that Marge is also getting dressed up in a very short black dress.
Look, honey, I clipped my tie all by myself.
We find out that it's actually Marge and Homer's anniversary. They give each other a kiss, and Homer goes to find a piece of paper in his suit that he pulls out and is like, "Hey, look, what's in here? It's that program from that guy's funeral."
You mean Frank Grimes?
Yeah, whatever happened to that guy? I love that he like talks, it's like he was at his funeral, whatever happened to that guy? It's such a Homer moment, and also just funny that would have been the last time Homer wore the suit.
Yeah, that's the part that I took from it. I like that. Yeah.
According to IMDb, when this episode plays in syndication, however, the Frank Grimes funeral pamphlet scene is entirely removed, I'm guessing for time.
Or darkness.
No, I don't think that would be the case, just because I feel like if they were going to edit anything for darkness, it would be the darkness of some of the like cavities that we see on Marge and Homer later. But anyway, I just thought that was interesting to note. That is a very fun joke for the longtime Simpsons fans who, of course, Frank Grimes is such a classic episode.
Yeah.
Downstairs, we can actually see that Bart and Lisa are sword fighting with, like, the plastic strips from a Hot Wheels set, which is really funny because when Marge is like, "What are you doing?"
Playing Hot Wheels.
Ow, that's a guide pin.
Those things would hurt, man.
But I don't know about you. I'm pretty confident I do. That's exactly how my friends and I like would inevitably end up playing with our Hot Wheels sets eventually. Like, don't get me wrong, we'd build the set, and like the ramp would get increasingly like stupider and stupider, and like we'd be climbing up to the top of like a bookshelf to like launch the cars. But eventually that would get boring, and we just start whacking each other with those orange strips of plastic.
It's pretty much what happens with all toys.
Marge and Homer are waiting to go to their dates for their anniversary, but unfortunately Grandpa has not shown up for babysitting. Only it turns out he just went to the wrong house, because he's actually overlooking a game of checkers, or is it chess? Checkers, with Rod and Todd Flanders, only he seems to be confused and think that Rod and Todd are in fact Bart and Lisa.
Now you got her, Bart. Jump Lisa's king.
I'm not Bart. I'm Rod Flanders.
There you go with that smart mouth. Lisa, run outside and cut me a switch.
Yes, sir.
Todd's so excited.
Well, I think he's just so obedient in so many ways is what's really funny about that.
Oh no, if Maud's got a secret dark side, so do Rod and Todd.
Okay, that's fair. They know, I guess in that family, they get excited about the switches.
Mm-hmm.
So unfortunately for Homer and Marge, who had planned to have a romantic evening at the Gilded Truffle, they end up going to a place suggested by Bart and Lisa, who are now on the date with them, and they decide that they're going to go to Up and Buffet, a restaurant which gives customers the airline dining experience.
Bart said this place is going to be super romantic, and it's not at all.
It's filled with kids running around and playing, and like it's actually like an airplane just parked in a parking lot, so you're sitting with like your rickety tray tables, and like it's just like not a place that you would expect a couple to want to spend their anniversary. And this is
the
actually
only ones dressed up too. Like everyone else is just in regular like street clothes, and Homer and Marge are still like in their fancy clothes.
Well, and like I mean, like there's kids literally like climbing over the seats and stuff. Too.
Mm-hmm.
Like yeah, it's crazy. But this is actually apparently based on a real life restaurant, believe it or not, a restaurant called Dive that was actually themed on a subway car, but essentially had the same type of concept. It's like, all right, you're going into an old abandoned subway car to eat your meal.
Well, what about that one place in Fort Worth that used to be the spaghetti place in downtown where you actually sit in an old train car and eat? But that was cool.
Well, that was the old spaghetti warehouse. Like that was like actually in a building though. Like that wasn't like that you were just eating in the train, which admittedly I think the train out of all of those things would probably have the best like options for that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But the Spaghetti Warehouse, or the old Spaghetti Warehouse, I used to actually work like right down the street from there. I worked at Cowtown Coliseum. That was like my first job. But anyway, the old Spaghetti Warehouse was like themed inside, and it featured things like you said, like there's like a like stagecoach and like a train car and stuff like that. But I feel like that's different. Like that, like themed restaurants are cool. I enjoy them. But like this is going like an extra degree too far, I think.
Well, I like that we actually didn't go to the Gilded Truffle for like the first time this season.
But we do peek across, like apparently these restaurants are in proximity to each other, because you can actually see Marge and Homer look out to see another couple having a romantic dinner, and also not having kids climb on their seat as they eat.
Aww.
But we hear the pilot actually announce, "Okay, folks, this is your pilot speaking. If you look to the left side of the aircraft, you will see Homer and Marge Sampson, who are celebrating with us today their 11th anniversary. So hang on while we dip our wing to this happy couple." You actually see outside there's two crewmen that are using like broom handles to push up and down on the wing to cause the whole plane to like rock, and the pilot even has to like calm them down, like, "Hey, Jose, ease up, huh?
Sorry, we were only hired to park cars."
Happy birthday, I'm sorry, anniversary, Samsons. Hey, I fucked it up. I got it about as right as the pilot did.
Yep, there you go.
Yeah.
That's the first thing that's ever possibly gone wrong.
That's exactly it. When we actually get home from the date, Marge and Homer are looking in the freezer after their dinner, and Marge kind of like is talking like, maybe our next anniversary will be more romantic. But that's when she actually notices a piece of their wedding cake still in the freezer.
You mean there's been cake in our freezer for 11 years? Why was I not informed?
Because it wouldn't have been there 11 years later if that were the case. Though I do find it hard to believe that with that cake being as obviously placed as it is, that all of the trips Homer's ever made to the freezer haven't resulted in him finding it.
Yeah, he's just not paying attention, I guess.
I guess so. But there's even the little plastic couple that you find on the top of a wedding cake sometimes, and Marge points out, "Look at this plastic couple. So full of potential dreams for the future."
Hey, Marge, wouldn't it be weird if they had little parties at night? Wee little parties?
Marge shuts the door, but Homer like immediately pops it open to see if they are in fact partying, and even gives a "gotcha." Oh.
So he Toy Storied before Toy Story. Simpsons did it.
Yeah. In Homer, I feel like Homer may have actually caught the plastic couple, but he just didn't give them enough time to unfreeze. Like, they were still in caution mode. If he would have waited, 10 seconds, boom, they would have been getting it on like Donkey Kong. Though, actually, it's been 11 years, so maybe not.
Who knows how long plastic toys are supposed to survive in a freezer.
I meant, getting it on, because that will become the point of the episode here in just a little bit.
Little bit, you say?
Maybe that's the problem. So they go off to bed, but we do notice that the freezer door is actually left cracked open because Homer did not get it all the way closed, which is going to cause a problem for us here in the morning.
Well, they also have trouble that night finding the spark, so to speak.
That's true. It's there's a lot of engines that are currently not running.
At the spaghetti warehouse.
Yeah, Marge and Homer, they kind of feel like they're obligated to, but you can tell that they don't want to, and they even have, basically, Santa's little helper hops in the bed, and they both, are like, "Oh, good boy, he's the best, yes, we should focus on the dog."
Yeah. Oof, awkward.
And, even after a pause, and Santa's little helper jumps down, Homer's like, "Hey, Marge, wasn't it great when the dog came in?"
Oh, yeah, he's really special.
I love that dog.
I love him, too. Good night.
Good night. Click, click, or clap, clap for Homer, but they actually do turn off the lights.
Homer's got the clap?
Again, maybe that's the problem. The next morning, Homer walks down the stairs and immediately takes a big old spill. He slips on some water that's pooled at the bottom of the staircase. And when he goes around the corner, Marge is frantic. "Homer, don't look!"
What? Ah! The food!
We can see all over the kitchen. The freezer has melted overnight, and all of the food has come unthawed and actually somehow, I guess, spilled out onto the kitchen floor. Which Homer is, completely upset. He doesn't understand.
Why did this happen? Why?
Someone left the freezer door open and the motor burned out. We have to get a new one. Or we can get a new one.
Okay. It was just the shock of seeing all that food on the floor. Plus, I've just fallen on my back, which hurt more than I let on.
Homer's still unbreakable, but it doesn't mean he doesn't feel pain, folks.
Yep.
He just bears it. We actually see that Marge and Homer are taking a day trip out to a, antique...
So they don't need a babysitter now?
Good point, actually. Yeah, it's daytime. They're fine.
Yeah.
It depends on what time of the day. I mean, we all know that home invasions are far more likely to happen at night. That's not true.
Sure. When everyone's at home in their homes. It makes more sense to break into a home when people are there, yes?
Yep. So Marge and Homer are talking about, is this what we thought married life would be? Spending our Saturdays driving out to the boondocks to trade in a refrigerator motor?
I never thought I'd live this long.
Good point, actually.
I think I've talked about this on the show before, but I've always had terrible thoughts like that where I could never see myself at 35, so I thought that meant I wasn't going to be alive at 35. Just really, really dark thoughts sometimes, but I get Homer's train of thought slightly in this.
No, I'm with you.
I didn't mean to go that dark.
No, I think it's a completely human thing, and plus we, as a society, have very unhealthy lifestyles and whatnot, so... there's a reason that there's so many tropes about Americans being fat like Homer.
Woohoo!
Just saying.
That Taco Bell isn't going to eat
Even
itself.
the ones of us that aren't fat have like cholesterol clogging up internally, so we're fat inside, even if we're not fat outside.
And that's what counts, is what's on the inside.
That's what I'm
Fat.
told. But just as this car drive gets to be even like that tension from the night before it starts to appear in the car, we hear a radio announcement come on.
Folks, is your marriage stuck in a rut? Can you even remember the last time you felt the thrill of romance? Well, maybe you need a divorce!
And then jolly music starts playing, and you can see Marge and Homer are getting very uncomfortable.
Call the divorce specialist now for a consultation and free tote bag.
I'm honestly surprised the free tote bag didn't do it for one of them. That could have legit been the end of the series right there.
Simpsons / Bouviers.
So they turn off the radio, and immediately, like, Marge is like, "Oh, good, the sign. That's where we're supposed to turn." But Homer misses it and actually slides into a pit of mud. But it's fine. Homer's gonna get him out of this. It's just gonna take a lot of flooring it. It's obviously not really working that well, and they actually end up having to get out and run towards the barn. It starts raining on them. It seems like things are just going from bad to worse for the parent Simpsons. Meanwhile, back at the retirement castle, I guess this is the explanation for what
there we
was the
go.
babysitter, because Bart and Lisa are actually at Grandpa's retirement castle.
That clogs up that hole.
And that's why today's bananas are called yellow fatty beans. Questions?
When are Mom and Dad coming back?
Bored, are ya? Lisa, go cut me a switch.
There's got to be something to do around here. Hey, are they pulling the plug on anything today? On anybody today?
Nope, everyone's paid up.
Dang it, I ruined that, but that was really funny when I heard that last night.
No, that's a great joke. It's like if you run out of money, they're just like done with you.
Yep.
It's probably about right.
Mm-hmm. That Matrix battery is used up, and on to the next one.
We actually see that Lisa finds a round metal device, as it's described. He finds a metal detector in the closet of Grandpa's retirement castle. Sounds weird to say it like that, but you know what I mean.
It sounded dirty for some reason. In the back of this retirement castle.
We actually do a flashback here where Abe talks about how he used that metal detector in the army. We get a cut where he basically ends up waving a truck off of a cliff.
It's a tank.
Yeah, it's a tank. You're right. He accidentally waves a tank off of a cliff to avoid a mine. And I love the expression on his face when he realizes his mistake. So he tries to overcompensate for the next tank and ends up having him drive into another mine.
And that's how I earned the Iron Cross.
Bart and Lisa actually has to borrow the metal detector, and Abe agrees to it, even though they almost immediately find, the first thing they find is his grandpa's brass knee and steel hip.
That's my brass knee, steel hip. And then they scan his brain. That one's news to me.
Yeah. So this is actually, I want to say it was Matt Selman's childhood that he talked about this, but long story short, he bought a metal detector when he was a kid, thinking that, he was going to get rich quick, and pretty much only found, soda cans and occasionally pennies or whatever. But I will admit, as a kid, there was definitely a phase in my life where I definitely wanted a metal detector, and in my mind thought, for sure, you could buy one for, $100 or whatever, and I'm like, well, that'll pay for itself quickly.
You thought you were going to have a Goonies situation where you find all this treasure.
I never did get a metal detector, though.
The best place to find money, Miles, is working at NRH20.
That wasn't too shabby. I bet you actually did better than I did. As a lifeguard, I did okay, but as a maintenance dude, I bet you found a lot of shit sucked into, the pumps and whatnot.
Money, cash?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, no, we didn't.
I found cash when I worked the lazy river and the wave pool.
Yep. And
occasionally the bottom of water slides.
Oh, yeah, we found a wedding ring in there once, but I turned that in. I didn't want the manager to pawn it.
Yeah, that's fucked up. That's a whole different... loose cash, I'm sorry. That's on you, and, it's going to be impossible to find anyway.
How do you come back to claim your $1 bill?
Right, yeah. Yeah, exactly. If you know
it had a picture of George Washington on it?
Oh, it's just like this one, yeah. Perfect. Oh, man. So, back to The Simpsons. And specifically, we go back to the Homer and Marge story here again. The B story on this one is fairly light. It doesn't really take up a lot of screen time, and it really just kind of gives Bart and Lisa something to do for the most part. Homer and Marge, however, are now actually taking refuge from the storm in a barn that they've happened to found. And they actually climb up into the haystack, and almost immediately they start getting pursued by the owner of the farm.
Safe at last.
Shh, we're trespassing, and some of these farmers have pitchforks.
Oh boy, and does he.
This particular farmer actually has a pitchfork that he's strapped to a shotgun, or possibly a rifle, I think a shotgun.
Looked like a shotgun.
Yeah.
Like double
it
barrel
says
shotgun.
double barrel shotgun in the script, boom. And it's got his own
boom, boom.
homemade pitchfork bayonet.
And he starts a stabbing.
He does. He starts like poking through the haystack, and you can see Homer and Marge are kind of embracing as they roll from side to side, avoiding the pitchfork. And the farmer
in here, you're in for some serious ass forking.
Ass forking was one of many lines that was specifically mentioned by the censors in this episode. But I'm going to talk more about that at the end. I've got some interesting stuff to talk about, and specifically with Mike Scully too. So that'll be real fun. Right now, though, I'm just going to say it, dude. Marge Simpson looked hot as fuck in this moment. Like, I'm not usually one that is like hot to cartoon characters, exception Jessica Rabbit, obviously. But like Marge looks smoking in this haystack scene.
The hair down does it for you.
Yeah, dude. Apparently with Marge, I'm a hair down, glasses off type. But they actually, this moment essentially inspires them to rock the Casbah, as we've already mentioned that song a few times now.
Well, I think it's the heat of the moment there, the sneaking behind,
the risk of death, or at least ass forking.
The risk of being seen.
Yeah, all of that.
This and is cow also, watches them.
Yeah, I was about to say, this is actually, according to the commentary, one of Matt Groening's favorite act breaks ever, just because of how silly it is and ridiculous it is. Because essentially, we see that an eyeball is looking through a peephole as Marge and Homer start to rock the Casbah. And we focus out thinking it's probably the farmer, but it turns out to be the cow. And Dan Castellaneta was actually instructed to do the sounds for this, and he wanted to, it basically is like the cow should be essentially getting off. like turned on by this scene. So Dan Castellaneta had to voice turned on cow noises.
I want to say that they did a good job getting into the barn when Homer's like putting his hand on barbed wire to bend the fence back too.
Yeah. But that is the act break for the first act. We come back for our second act and see that the refrigerator has now been repaired and pushed back into place. Bart
Metaphor?
That's symbolism possibly. Yeah, for sure.
The refrigerator's the marriage, Miles.
Homer does a little bit of, he's like, he does like a hero flex, basically.
And then they start kissing.
This is actually a really funny scene here because as the Homer and Marge start to kiss, we get like a TV style, like, ooh, followed by a joke, and then a whoa type of thing.
Bart, I told you not to leave the TV on.
Ooh. Just a play on the idea that The Simpsons don't usually have laugh tracks, and they tried to cover a reasonable reason to have them here.
Yeah.
I thought it was fun.
And they were synchronized like May 17th.
We actually see in the backyard that Bart and Lisa are now searching for treasure. And according to Bart's daydream, like, he legitimately believes they're going to find, like, pirate treasure.
But I like how he's dreaming about the pirates digging. And one of the pirates is like, why don't we spend the gold to buy things we like? And then the captain shoots him. Like, it makes sense. Why did the pirates always bury their treasure? Why don't they save the money and
like
spend
use it for something?
Yeah.
Yeah, it would make sense. So Bart and Lisa actually get a beep, and Bart immediately goes into, like, dealing mode. He's like, all right, Lisa, here's the deal. Crowns and W's are mine, snuff boxes and cameras are yours. Now, as for wands and scepters...
It's a bottle cap.
It's jewel-encrusted? At the nuclear power plant, we see or hear a whistle blow, and it's time for Homer to leave for the day, and he walks out with Lenny and Carl.
Hey, Homer, see you at Moe's?
Yeah, he put a new electrical tape on the cushions.
Sorry, guys. Marge and I are spending the weekend at a bed and breakfast.
Oh, trying to jumpstart the old marriage, huh?
Can I come?
No, it'd be awkward, what with the sex and all.
Yeah, I always figured Marge would be a dynamo in the sack, you know?
Oh boy, she's got legs from here to yaya. Interesting.
Marge pulls up while they're talking about her.
Yeah, man, that's like honestly, like I get like what they're doing here, but that's super awkward, like casual conversation.
I think Marge even calls them pervs when she pulls up.
Marge picks up Homer to head off to Snuggler's Cove, which is a bed and breakfast.
No, they did say bed and breakfast, right?
Oh, isn't this romantic? Dollies and cozies as far as the eye can see.
There's anything more exquisite than Queen Anne's lace? I haven't found it.
We see actually Marge like lying in bed beckoning Homer. But once again, it seems like something's wrong. Like it's not really like happening again.
Shouldn't we get started?
Yeah, no time like the present.
Something's not right. Does this bed feel lumpy to you?
Well, yeah, kinda. Did that butter churn just move? Because if it did,
then
basically there's a churn near the bed, and Homer's like trying to like imply that it's haunted, I guess, or maybe there's something in it.
It's the Santa's little helper thing, where it's just like a distraction,
right.
An excuse of why they can't get it on.
Right, of course. Homer actually does take off his shirt, and just then a maid rushes in the room, catching him topless.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I saw everything.
Homer covers his nipples up with teacups, like Austin Powers style.
Yeah. I love how they usually. I love how they usually go. I didn't see anything, but she's like, I saw everything.
But apparently this little bit of excitement works because that makes both Marge and Homer's hearts beat just like back at the hayloft.
You know, the fear of getting caught is kind of a turn-on.
There's that dirty girl I married. Come on, I have a disgusting idea. We cut downstairs and see... we cut downstairs and see that they are doing it basically behind a curtain where the other residents are putting a jigsaw puzzle of a donkey together. Marge actually starts to giggle when he sees the silhouettes of them through the curtain.
Ooh, naughty people.
It's kind of fun though to see them doing this. They're teenagers, but they're not Ovs.
Well, I got to give props to Dan and Julie in this episode, man, because like there's a lot of scenes where they're going to say very, very basic lines of dialogue, but put like a little bit of awkwardness behind them, and like you feel the tension in the awkward moments throughout this whole episode, but you also feel like the naughtiness a little bit too in it.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up because this episode did heavily rely on Dan and Julie, and of course they did a fantastic job, but they talked about on the commentary that they actually recorded quite a bit more because a lot of what they did is they just kind of let Dan and Julie go and improvise a little bit, and they got a lot of really great stuff, but they just kind of had to, work with what they had, but they feel like they got a more natural feel by letting the non-scripted stuff go on.
That makes a lot of sense. That's totally fair in this. Like I can see that.
It's got to be like, even as professionals, and even if you've done this for now almost 10 seasons, I still can't imagine that's got to be like the most comfortable way to do a voice recording session though.
Yeah, like it helps. I know when we do like bits and stuff, it's very helpful to have scripts in front of us.
Right, yeah, for sure. Bart, meanwhile, back with Bart and Lisa, we actually see that they are finding a decent haul of stuff, but it's all trash, as Lisa very clearly points out.
Exactly. Now there's nothing left out there but treasure.
And we basically see it's like paper clips, bent pennies, a license plate, like all just stuff that you would have no interest in.
Well, kids might want a license plate.
Not in that bent up, roughed up condition, though. Like, yeah, you're right. I would take like a cool license plate to put on my wall or something, but like not in that condition. Homer gets back, and Bart immediately is like, "Hey, you're back. Did you rock the Casbah?"
This is after Marge and Homer walk in, and they're doing the like new couple thing where their arms are around each other, but their hands are in each other's back pockets.
Right, yeah, you're right. They're being very, very intimate, and I do love that Homer is immediately like telling Bart, like, "Bart, yes."
Do you know you have your hands in each other's pockets?